You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different, man, you must think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro, don't waste your time no more. Who the fuck are you to tell me what to do? I don't give a damn if you say you disapprove. I'm gonna make my move, I'm gonna make it soon. And I'll do it cause it's what I wanna fucking do. Cause all these opinions and all these positions, they come in millions, they blocking your vision. But no, you can't listen, that shit is all fiction. Cause you hold the power as long as you're driven.
Make it. There's no way that you make it. And maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Are you just gonna take that? Make them take it all back. Don't tell me you believe that. Are you just gonna take that? Or will you fucking fight back? Fight back. You ain't never ever gonna break it. You can never beat them and they're better than you face it. Thinking that they give a damn, you're not thinking straight, kid. No, they don't give a damn, you got what I'm saying? I'm not fucking playing, I'll give it to you straight, man. There's too many others and you're not that great, man. Stop what you're saying, stop what you're making. Everybody here knows that you just faking. Nah, I don't wanna hear it anymore, I don't wanna hear it anymore. All these fucking thoughts, they are not what I need anymore. I'm about to shut the motherfucking door on all you poor ass haters with your heads in the clouds, talking out loud so proud. You better shut your goddamn mouth before I do more, speak out. It's about to head south. Never gonna make it. There's no way that you make it. And maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Are you just gonna take that? Make them take it all back. Don't tell me you believe that. Are you just gonna take that? Or will you fucking fight back?
Yo! What's going on? All right, so we got ourselves a little bit of an announcement first before we begin, and then we got some videos to watch together. So there's a few things going on. Let me begin with updating where we're at. So we are launching the GoFundMe for my dad. Probably be live tomorrow, but I'm announcing it today. So there's some stuff going on, basically. Sometime next year, it looks like I'm going to be moving. And once that happens, I need to be able to take care of my father. So that's what's going on there. And also the direction of this channel is going to have to change. So we have been doing for the last 5 years, 6 years, anti-apologetics, and it began with me doing a literary analysis of the Bible, looking at the Bible as literature, not as history, not as religion, not as theology, not as not critical biblical scholarship, literature. That's how I examined the Bible. People didn't get that. People didn't understand that. I then moved on to the Quran, and I did the Quran as literature, and that got a lot of views. People were loving that. And then I lost the last 200 videos that I made, and I didn't re-record. And when I started doing it again a year and a half later, the thread had fallen off. It was no longer, I was no longer the thing to watch for that, because other people had begun doing commentaries on the Quran as well. I am going to finish doing the Book of Mormon. I will do the Book of Mormon either as one single review or as a short series. I'm not going to do every single chapter, but that will be finished soon, probably within a week, or if not a week, within 2 weeks. And from there, or actually from today onward, we're going to expand what we're doing here on the channel. We are still going to do anti-apologetics because that's something all of us seem to love. And I still will be doing debate reviews when they come up, but the focus will no longer simply be religion. because when I started doing this, it was about looking at the Bible as literature, and that's something nobody understood. Nobody seems to understand. Whether it's my favorite Kip Davis or Dan McCullen, whether it's Bart Ehrman, whether it's Trent Horn, whether it's Gavin Ortlund, nobody gets that I'm talking about the Bible as literature. Nobody gets it. Everybody either wants to call it history, they want to call it mythology, they want to call it anything but literature. It's a book. They're multiple books in a collection. It's literature. That's what I've been doing, and nobody gets that. So we're moving on, and the reason why we're moving on is because of Jordan Peterson and Richard Dawkins. They expressed my theory the best that I ever have on any of my debates. They expressed it very well about the evolutionary pressure that's placed on documents and narrative over time, and how that gets redefined and refined and refined and refined until suddenly you're in truth, and then you get to meta truth. They did that as well, if not better than I do. So, well, I don't think they did better than I did, but basically my theory's out there, and I'm never going to get credit for it, and I'm not going to be a cheerleader for Jordan Peterson. So we're moving forward. The other reason we're moving forward is because I am going to China, and when I get back from China, if I'm still married, I need to start setting things up to go teach in China. I will be teaching English, possibly be teaching philosophy. I'm not sure, but that's where we're going. And I'll probably be teaching writing and a few other things as well. Hello, hi. So, with that being said, if I'm in China, I don't know how I can do these shows here in the US. This is not tomorrow. This is within a few months. I'm not going to give the exact date because I don't need people knowing when I am or am not here. But at some point in the future, I will be in China. If things go well, I need to start making plans to transition everything there. If things don't go the way I want them to go, I still need to find a place for my dad, and I still need to figure out what I'm going to do with my home and other things like that. I'm not talking about selling it. I am talking about maybe renting it out or something like that, or donating it to some family, letting family live here while I'm elsewhere when I travel. But I'm going to get back to my complete life the way that I want to live it, and that included me getting healthy, which I'm almost back to that. I kind of got a little out of shape because of the 6 weeks broken foot thing, but that's what's going on. I don't want to mislead anyone. Here's what I want to do in my next few weeks, my next 2 months worth of videos and live streams. I want to talk to Michael Beverly one on one, however we got to do it. I want to talk to Kevin and Jen. I want to talk to one of the big guys, and by one of the big guys, let me tell you what that means. I don't care which one. I just want to talk to someone about the Bible as literature. I'm talking about Trent Horn. I'm talking about Gavin Ortlund. I don't really want to do. I don't really want to do Jimmy Akin. I'm just gonna be really blunt. Kip, if you're watching this, I would love to talk to you about the Bible as literature. I don't want to hurt your channel. I don't want to damage your channel's reputation. We can do it here on my channel. I don't care. It's not about the views. I just want to have this conversation with someone about the evolutionary pressures that exist on narrative. My whole theory that's already been expressed by other people. I want to have this conversation with someone. I'd rather do it with a religious person. I'm just going to be honest, because a religious person is going to have more pushback against my interpretation, but that's okay. And I would like to do this. Hell, if we can get William Lane Craig, let's do it. But I don't see that happening. But I would like to talk to one of the big boys before I go to China. I do need to sign up for an online course to get the degree necessary so I can teach in China. That is a different thing altogether. Yeah, so that's what's going on. I'm just putting that up front right now so you all know what's happening. So our channel is going to expand on what we're watching, because we're not going to focus solely on religion. Not that we've been focusing solely on religion, but we're going to expand a bit. I am talking to people. You have been quiet for the last 2 hours, and suddenly, when I'm talking, you want to say stuff. Come on. Come here. No, come here. Come here. Come on. Come on up. Okay, there we go. All right. Here. I'm going to give you a platform. I want you to tell the world what you think. Go ahead. They've already heard you. Tell them what you think about politics and religion in the Bible. Go ahead. Come on. Talk to them. Okay. We are going to begin with some Hasabi. We're going to talk about the Asmongold and Hassan stuff. Then we're going to get to a little bit of my favorite people. And then, let me see, because I know I got 2 other things I wanted to do. I don't know how many videos we're going to get through in one shot, but let's see what we can do.
It's just so fucking fun.
Okay.
Of government efficiency.
That's not what I hit. There we go. Thank you. That is not where I wanted to go. Why did it change the way that it's doing? I don't like it when it changes things. Okay, let's just go to watch later. There we go. Don't hit automatic play. Thank you. All right. I want to do this one. This is going to be where I want to go. I don't know if we're going to get there today, but I do want to get to Alex O'Connor. And I really want to do this one, but I'm pretty sure it's going to get copyright struck if I do. It's the smartest man on earth, according to IQ, talking to Michaels about religion. But yeah, every argument for atheism, that sounds good, and this guy sounds good. But we're going to begin with the Asmongold Hassan drama, and then we're going to move on from there. Blaster Master says, I can help get me a TESL degree if you need one. My wife has 2 masters in linguistics. That would be great. I need to know, because I want to try to do it online, if at all possible, because of my situation with my dad. I need a course that's accredited, and that is recognized internationally. I need a school that's recognized internationally. That's where I'm at, man. That's what I need done. I was actually looking at the Johns Hopkins University, or the university where I live, which is UTRGV. Yeah, I'm talking about where I live right now. This we're putting everything out of the bag. All the cats are out of the bag, and all the cards are on the table. All right, let's get with Hassan, and let's get to this. It should be on history, actually. There we go.
What would happen if they don't ban for a month? I'm going to. Empty threat. We're going to get to that. So I went and I said that if this guy doesn't get banned for 2 weeks, I am going to bring Dan Saltman, who is the guy who has been talking about all of the anti-Semitism. And by the way, I don't want to spoil a whole lot, but he and I have had extensive conversations about this.
Damn, dude. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, no. For those of you who don't know, these are some of Destiny's little orbiters. This man, we used to have conversations back in the day. Quite pleasant conversations, as a matter of fact. But his brain has just been so broken by being Destiny's orbiter and his co-host on his podcast that he has been spending. He has been spending an unimaginable amount of time on this like vengeful quest to, I guess, destroy Twitch for not getting me banned. They have made websites from like day one, from I think it was like October 19th or something, was when the Hamasabi website was launched. Like that was what their immediate goals were, where they were like, we're going to use this Israel, we're going to use what is happening in Gaza to, try to activate as many people as possible to get this guy platform. And they've gotten increasingly more insane.
Well, I don't agree with deplatforming, and I don't agree with censorship, and I don't agree with canceling. And I'm hoping in Trump's America that stops. But regardless, I don't think Hassan should be canceled. I understand that Asmongold is a little bit mentally ill and that he views things in absolutes, and that if he was punished for something, he thinks it's unfair that other people have done worse and they don't get punished. I think Asmongold is completely correct on this, but I don't think scalping or going scalp hunting for bigger creators is the right way. I get it. Asmongold's pissed, and he's not wrong. Morally, he's not wrong. But I don't think destroying a bunch of people's livelihood is the right approach. I get that Hassan needs to have a reckoning. I get that Destiny needs to have a reckoning. I really do. But making it to where they can't make money because they don't have the opportunity to make money is the wrong way to go. But what I do think is that you can convince other people not to go watch them. That's different. Telling people, hey, it is morally wrong or morally inconsistent to ban me and then go watch Hassan, who's doing worse than what I do. If you're going to not watch me, then you shouldn't watch Hassan. And if you're going to watch me and you're going to say that it's okay because of such and such a reason, then look at what Hassan is doing and you make the moral call whether you want to support this person because he stands for what I don't. He stands against what I stand for, what my audience stands for. That's fine. Make that pitch. That's fine. Don't do this. I don't think this is the right approach. I don't even think I'm showing both screens. Hot dog it. There we go. There we go.
Over the year, increasing the more insane over the year as it has not succeeded. Yeah, these are the people concerned about
change
hate speech.
The way that trust and
concerned about
safety
hate
is done.
speech.
Yeah, maybe not extensive, but we've talked for a bit about this. All of the information that's going to come out has not come out. And in fact, some of the most damaging information has not come out yet. I'm not going to talk about any spoilers or anything like that, but that's what's going on. And so anyway,
yeah, Twitch has had a
massive problem.
Twitch has an anti-white, anti-conservative slant, and also an anti-Semitism problem. I think these guys are playing with fire. One, they're playing with fire because like this straightforwardly is being conducted by people who don't give a fuck about any of these things, and they're just running this Gamergate style campaign directly against Twitch. And this platform has, not only does Twitch employ hundreds of people, but outside of hundreds of people being employed, you might not like them, you're also quite literally over thousands, if not tens of thousands of content creators that have a direct lifeline here, you know, because of one man and his rabid sociopathic cult's crusade. It blows my mind. Like, it's so crazy. These are the same people who are like, oh, Gamergate, or not even necessarily Gamergate, but it was like, you know, PewDiePie and all the adpocalypse that happened. They were very mad at the media for launching this crusade against YouTube in the PewDiePie era. And now they're trying to do the adpocalypse, ironically enough, to themselves. And it doesn't make any sense. They're talking as if it's a drama rather than actually possibly taking Twitch to the courts. Well, yeah, because it is just drama for the most part. But so he's saying Dan didn't show all the evidence he has because he's holding back for an Asmon collab. I call on that, Chief. I'm sure there's more extra stuff. The problem is for it's over, dude, you're cooked. They found the emails between you and the CEO. Yeah, I'm done. It's over for me. It's Jover. The problem is for every like one real thing, like for example, Twitch, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, unbanning fucking Sneeko or Fresh and Fit and then subsequently banning them quickly. There's like a million different things that they're slamming on. Random Reddit, Twitter, TikTok posts, you always catch a stray and mention for zero. Yes, I have a lot of people who are extremely online who despise me. But in the real world, they virtually do not exist. Problem is, the internet world is becoming increasingly more important than the real world. It is what it is. Literally, most of the other streamers love you. It's a very loud minority of psycho streamers and a lot of nerds in their basement that hate you. Exactly. That's why that's why it doesn't actually work when people go, why are you collaborating with this guy? And then the streamers will be like, because I like him. You know what
Awesome and funny if I won.
It would be awesome and funny.
It'd be
Yeah, his friend is literally helping him maintain a facade of plausible deniability. He's like, I care. He had personal perspectives that align with certain things. I did see something though. I mean, Asmongold is now officially the largest political content creator maybe on the planet, literally. Here, let's look.
Yeah.
He could be. Asmongold TV is his main channel, right? 4 hours ago, 600,000 views. Trump guy does not around, you know? Legacy Media realizes is dead. 70,000 views through. Migrants flood New York City to avoid Trump deportations. Asmongold reacts. 2.1 million views. Trump's plans for the next 4 years are getting crazy. 1.5 million views one day. This is literally in a sea of like, you know, how DEI is ruining games. We're trying to find out. Bernie Sanders of the Democrats. We saw this on stream. We clicked on this on stream. Trump will end this war on free speech. 1.6 million views. Trump has more plans for these next 2 years. 2 million views 3 days ago. Left-wing YouTuber. Why are people unsubbing? Come back. I wonder why. 1.2 million views 3 days ago. Trump is Hitler. She's losing it. 1.3 million views 3 days ago. Trump has a wild plan for the next 4 years. 2.3 million views 4 days ago. It is now officially overtaken his content on Dragon Age, The Veil Guard, or even the likes of the West is forcing Japan to censor all anime, or how DEI is ruining games even. Right-wing political content makes you relevant. I don't think Asmon gives a shit about money. I will openly state that. I think he cares about, you know, being top of mind. He cares about being relevant. He cares about winning. It's like I definitely don't think he cares about money. You will never convince me that he gives a shit about money. The man only lives to stream. And I get that as someone who also lives to stream. You get this, people leave when gaming treatment is you. No, that's not true. He's just playing to his audience. His white boy basement dweller audience wants something to justify their sad existence. So blaming immigrants and women and people of color is exactly what I want to hear. I mean, yeah, but this is what I mean when I say that there's an organic audience out there, right? And I think a lot of people lean into this kind of stuff when the algorithm gives you that sweet, sweet taste, even if you don't personally believe it. And then maybe you do start believing.
Okay, let's see. Hold on. Every argument for atheism or the Trinity I kind of want to do this one. Let's see what this one is. Angela Symposium. And then we'll move on to every argument for atheism, and then we'll finish up with this one. Yeah, that's what we're doing today. We're not going to do the twins.
Hello, Symposiast. I'm Dr. Angela Puka, Religious Studies PhD and University Lecturer, and this is your online resource for the academic.
Hi. How are you? So I'm 44. I'm a Cancer. I love walks on the beach. I read a lot of books, especially ancient philosophy and ancient history. I'm currently reading 352 books on the Church Fathers. And I recently finished my collection of the Art Scrolls commentary on the Old Testament. I know, it's something. How are you? I like the eyeshadow. It's a little much, but on you, it works.
Study of magic, esotericism, paganism, shamanism, and all things occult. So, is witchcraft forbidden in Christianity?
Do I talk too slow for you? I'm so sorry. It's just your beauty is blinding me to science.
Is it antithetical
and logic and reason
to Christian faith? Can Christians practice esotericism, magic practices, witchcraft? Are the two incompatible? What's the
You know, there's something about a heretic. You're just so lovely. So basically, yeah, they are incompatible. Yeah, they are incompatible. You cannot do magic and be a practicing Christian and know a prayer is not a spell. But I love the way you say it.
matter with it. You could think that the relationship between Christianity and witchcraft is more straightforward, as in Christianity just forbids it outright. But as we will see today, because we will cover the whole history of the relationship between Christianity and witchcraft, things are a bit more nuanced and complex than that. So buckle up. It's going to be a long.
I want to invite you out for an empanada, but I'm worried that might be racist, even though I think we're both Hispanic. You want to go get an empanada with me? Where are you from?
Long one, so grab a snack and a drink. And also, before we start, I'd like to remind you that this project of delivering free academic scholarship based on peer-reviewed sources can only exist thanks to your support. This project is brought to you by you, so please consider
I was told by a left-wing commentator that all historians and philosophers and scholars that are online YouTubers are not real and don't have any real degrees. And if a left-wing person who is angry at Metatron says it, it must be true, even though he said it on YouTube, which he just said wasn't true. Anyway, Argentina. I think in Argentina. That's why I said empanada. That's why I said empanadas, because I'm thinking Argentina. I don't think Mexico. I don't think Mexico. She could just be from like Wyoming and just have the accent. I mean, I realize that's possible. But hey, I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up, Blaster. We're going to find out where this person is from. Let's see if she even has real credentials, because that's always important. How do I do this? Dr. Angela Boca. Boca. Boca, Boca. All right, let's continue on. Okay, while I'm looking up her CV, let's keep going.
supporting my work with
What? I'm busy. You were fine. What happened? What? Just jump up. Just jump up. I'm not coming down there. You're jumping up. Don't me. Come on. Just come up. Just stop trying to pull me down. There we go. Thank you. She's doing this with her claw. She's doing this. She's doing this. Okay, let's continue.
donations on PayPal, joining my fantastic community, my inner symposium on Patreon, which gives you also lots of perks depending on your chosen tier. Or you can support me on Coffee, super thanking me in the chat, and checking out my services at drangelapoca.com. And many of you guys reach out to me saying that you would like to explore a bit more a certain topic or another. Well, you've got the opportunity to do that if you book a tutoring session on my website. So check it out, please. And now I'd say let's crack on with our topic for today, which is quite exciting, the history of Christianity and witchcraft. So let's start. So indeed, today we are going to explore the relationship, the historical relationship between Christianity and witchcraft, or what we may also call magic practices. In addressing this subject,
Okay, first off, lady, I know more than you, and I know everything I need to know about witchcraft. I have 2 books that I got in Barnes & Noble in the late 90s, right there. The Witch's Magical Handbook and A Witch's Bible. I'm already an expert.
it is essential first to clarify what we mean by witch and witchcraft in the context of Christian doctrine, as these themes carry diverse meanings across time and place, shaped by cultural, religious, and even political forces. In its broadest sense, witchcraft refers to practices believed to harness supernatural forces, often through spells, charms, or rituals, to achieve particular outcomes in the physical world. A witch, therefore, was typically seen as a person who had acquired or was believed.
Okay, I'm looking at her background, but I'm not seeing what school she went to, or even if it's accredited. So here's her background. Do you tell me what I'm missing here? Dr. Angela Boca is an academic. Sorry, I was reading something from Blaster. She is an academic and university lecturer who has taught at several universities worldwide and has been based in Leeds Trinity University. I don't know where Leeds is. I'm assuming that's like England or something. Yes, my Americanism is coming out. So it's a bachelor's and master's degree in philosophy, but it doesn't say from where. In 2021, the University of Leeds awarded her a PhD in religious studies on Italian witchcraft and shamanism. Kind of curious where you even get that one. Does Leeds have a occult studies program? What is this? Published by Brill. Her research focused on I don't why is it published by Brill if it's awarded? I don't understand. Her research focused on magic, witchcraft, paganism, esotericism, shamanism, and related currents. Author of several peer-reviewed publications and co-editor of the forthcoming Pagan Religion in 5 Minutes. You know what's weird is that I actually saw an advertisement for that book maybe a few days ago on my Instagram, of all things, for Equinox. She hopes to bridge the gap between academia and communities of magic practitioners by delivering related scholarly content on her YouTube channel and other social media. I'm going to subscribe to her, I'll tell you that much. Let's see. She has a Patreon, she has a Ko-fi, she has one-off donations, she has PayPal. I think she took a lot of peyote, my friend. I think she took a lot of peyote and maybe some shrooms. But that's okay. That's okay. We don't judge on this channel. We tease, but we don't judge. And you can book her for a conversation. That's interesting. I am not going to sign up to her newsletter because I don't want to be mean about it. She's very pretty. But I'm not seeing what I need to see to on her degree. What I am seeing though is that I wouldn't mind reading her books. That'd be kind of cool. Blaster ate all the shrooms.
Believed to have acquired secret knowledge or powers that allow.
Okay, here's how we found out whether or not she's legit or not. We have her and Dat Darling get into an argument, and we have that cute witch, or that little cute witch, depending on what she's calling herself now, be the moderator. Dat Darling does fake esotericism and fake witchcraft stuff. Like, it's not real. That cute witch does real witchcraft, but in kind of like a modern pop culture kind of way. So all of her studies are like poppy, kind of like it's not actual historical stuff, but it's influenced by people who actually practice, right? So it's not like she's doing a grift. Like she's a true believer. So you have this girl, this lady, this woman, Paco Poca. You have her Angela argue with Dat Darling. The moderator be that cute witch. Of course, if she's legit, she's going to win. So that's how we find out. That's what I want. Let's make it happen.
Allow them to exert influence beyond ordinary human capabilities. In this historical overview that we will do today, witchcraft is a term
I'm literally going to buy her
to
book right now
describe
from
any
Amazon.
act deemed magical. Though what was seen as magical could differ significantly depending on religious and cultural interpretations. Within Christianity, the term witchcraft was largely associated with practices thought to be in opposition to the Christian faith, particularly where these practices sought power or knowledge outside divine grace. This perception was deeply rooted in the Christian cosmology that positioned God as the ultimate source of authority, with supernatural acts reserved strictly for the divine or divinely appointed agents, such as saints or clergy. From this perspective, any attempt to yield power that seemed to rival or bypass God's authority was viewed with suspicion and frequently condemned as demonic or influenced by evil. However, as we will see, this relationship is far from straightforward, as Christianity itself has absorbed, redefined, and at times accommodated practices that could be seen as magical. So let's trace the evolving Christian responses to witchcraft
Her
from
book
the
is
early church to
expensive.
the modern period, examining how Christianity's engagement with magic has ranged from outright condemnation to ambivalence and, in some cases, synthesis with local traditions and ceremonial practices. To understand the early Christian stance on witchcraft and magic, it is essential to consider the religious, cultural, and theological underpinnings that shaped Christian responses to supernatural practices. Christianity emerged within a Greco-Roman world already rife with
Okay, so Christianity emerged in a Greco-Roman world already rife with magical beliefs and practices.
magical beliefs and practices, from divination and astrology to the use of amulets and charms. Early Christians, however, positioned themselves as distinct from these practices by emphasizing monotheistic devotion to God, viewing any unauthorized
It was
attempt to
$170
access
bucks for her
supernatural
book.
power as a violation of divine order. This perspective draws
That's
heavily
pricey.
on both Hebrew scriptures and early Christian writings, where magic is cast not only as spiritually dangerous, but as a rejection of God's exclusive authority over the universe. In the Hebrew Bible, magic and divination are consistently associated with non-Israelite peoples and considered abominations that conflict with monotheistic worship. One of
I mean, the Israeli people themselves. The Israeli people themselves did also practice magic as well.
one of the most direct prohibitions occurs in Deuteronomy 18:10-12, which states, "No one shall be found among you
I mean, let's see how legit she is before I answer that question.
who practices divination, or is a soothsayer, or an ogre, or a sorcerer,
Kip, I could have bought one of your books, but you don't advertise them. I'm just saying.
or one who casts spells, or who consults ghosts or spirits, or who seeks oracles from the dead." These verses underscore a theological commitment to exclusivity in worship and an emphasis on the dangers of external influences. The concern was not solely with the practices themselves, but with the worldview they represented, a cosmology that allowed humans
Lester, I've seen your live stream before. It's not going to work. I appreciate the offer, but it's not going to work.
to yield supernatural power independently of Yahweh. This aligns with the cultural milieu of the ancient Near East, where sorcery and divination were often closely linked to polytheistic religions and foreign deities, which were seen as spiritual rivals to Yahweh. In the New Testament, the condemnation of magic is continued, often with an emphasis on the incompatibility of magic with the gospel message. For example, in the Acts of the Apostles, Simon Magus, a Samaritan who practices sorcery, attempts to buy the Holy Spirit's power from the apostles, only to be harshly rebuked. This story of Simon Magus serves as an important early Christian narrative about the corrupting influence of attempting to purchase spiritual power. Simon's attempt reflects what would become a core Christian belief, that divine gifts and spiritual power are not commodities, nor are they accessible by human means alone. The apostles' rejection of Simon establishes a clear boundary between legitimate spiritual power bestowed by God and unauthorized supernatural power, which is suspect and ultimately unauthentic. This narrative was influential in shaping the Church's view of magic as a form of impiety and a potential affront to divine sovereignty. Beyond Scripture, the early Church Fathers provided theological frameworks that reinforced anti-magical sentiments, equating magic to idolatry, deception, and demonic influence. Figures such as Tertullian, Augustine, and Chrysostom addressed magic as a serious threat to Christian purity and salvation. Tertullian, one of the earliest Christian apologists, argued that even benign seeming practices like astrology were fundamentally opposed to the Christian faith, as they
So she's actually saying things correct now at this point, but she's also a little bit boring. So I'm going to skip ahead, even though I do actually want to watch what she says, but I'll come back and watch it later. Let me see. She says something more interesting. Distinctions between white and black magic, oblivience toward. Let's go over here to 12.
Beliefs among rural populations, thereby minimizing the supernatural threat while asserting doctrinal authority over popular folk practices. The canon episcopi thus illustrates an early form of the Church's strategy. Rather than directly confronting every instance of magic, it often opted to reinterpret and delegitimize these practices, framing them as deceptions rather than authentic supernatural acts. So, early Christian condemnations of magic and witchcraft were shaped by both scriptural precedent and the teachings of influential theologians, from the Old and New Testament prohibitions to the doctrinal writings of church fathers. Early Christianity established a framework that viewed magic as antithetical to faith. The canon episcopi further demonstrates
This is a photo of me when I was in the best shape that I was in a decent outfit. I wish I could look like that right now. That's me in my best shape.
that while the church rejected belief in witchcraft, it was not yet committed to widespread persecution, instead seeking to redefine supernatural beliefs as delusions or errors. These groundwork would later evolve.
That was 2017. I dated 2 witches in my life. I sometimes make it sound like I dated more only because I was friends with and tried to date a few. But I dated one that was a bruja, the daughter of a bruja, and she was herself a practitioner. And I dated a Wiccan. So those are the 2 witches I dated. I did date someone who was pagan, but she eventually became an atheist or at least agnostic. So.
Influencing how medieval and early modern Christians
But she wasn't really
approached and
rich, that
regulated
one, the
magic
third one.
practices within their communities. As we move into the medieval period, Christian attitudes towards witchcraft and magic began to develop.
And I think I was 17 or 18 when I dated the bruja. And I think I was maybe 22 when I dated the Wiccan.
A more nuanced framework. Influenced by the philosophical and theological developments of the time, Christian scholars started to distinguish between types of magic based on intent and perceived source of power. These categorization, often simplified as the distinction between white and black magic, marked a significant shift
Maybe
in how
younger,
the church
maybe
interpreted and responded
18,
to magical
19.
practices. While black magic was uniformly condemned as heretical and linked to demonic forces, white magic, or what some refer to as natural magic, was occasionally tolerated, provided it was seen as operating within the divine order rather than against it.
Okay.
The development of scholasticism in medieval Europe significantly influenced Christian perceptions
Okay, we're
of
good there.
magic.
We're good there. We're good there.
Scholasticism,
I
a method
like what
of
she's
critical
saying.
thought rooted in the
I like what she's saying. I think it's interesting, but we want to stay interesting. So let's move on. Arguments for atheism. Yeah, let's do arguments for atheism, and then we'll finish off the night with Alex O'Connor's takedown of Cliff. Which is not really a takedown; it's just a softball interview. He's just giving softball interviews nowadays, so it's actually kind of interesting. I feel he's growing deeper and deeper into agnosticism, although his video he did with Destiny did not do it for me. So he looked a little sloppy and a little cringe. That's okay.
A new, fast-growing Christian YouTube channel, Redeemed Zoomer, put out a video promisingly called All Atheist Arguments.
Okay. Yeah, she was a Wiccan. She was from McCoven. Her mom and half the village, they lived on an island. She was cool, like fun to hang out with, but she went crazy. The Bruja's daughter, she was beautiful, man. She was just absolutely beautiful. I think I can say her first name, Esmelda. She was just totally beautiful. The problem is that there was a tomboy in my class when I was dating her, and the tomboy was this beautiful redhead, and she was very country. And as soon as the tomboy gave me a little bit of as soon as she gave me a little bit of attention, I completely ignored the brujendeja, and that didn't go well. I chose the redhead who liked me over the girl I was actually dating. I was not smart. I was 18. What do you want? And then the one who I guess I was 19 or 20, I dated for a while, and then she took me to a party, and I met one of her friends, and also for a redhead, a very tall redhead. I was like, I kind of like this chick. I'm gonna move on, and she's like, it's okay, it's all right. We had a good run. I was like, yeah. Redheads, man. What are you gonna do?
Arguments answered in 10 minutes. Let's see how he does.
Atheists have a lot of arguments, but they never really think of anything new that the church hasn't had answers to for the past 2,000 years. So let's answer them. Religion causes...
All right, give me a second. I'm gonna get some nasal spray before I start sniffling, like I always do on this thing. I'm gonna deal with it ahead of time. I'll be right back. Oh, before I forget to say it, I have been updating my other two channels. So if you want to watch my second channel or my alt channel, there is content there for people to consume.
wars. Well, actually, only 7% of all human wars were caused by religion, and if you remove Islamic wars, that number drops down to 3%.
Right off the bat, this isn't really an argument for atheism, just for the idea that religion is harmful. Even if religion caused no wars at all, that's no actual evidence that any religion is true. Still, even if religion only causes 7% of wars, isn't it a problem that it causes any wars? The claim is not that religion causes all wars, or even most wars, just that it sometimes causes wars. I mean, to use a crude example, as far as I'm aware, National Socialism only ever caused one war. One out of the thousands that we have documented. But of course, even if the vast majority of wars were started for other reasons, it's still a problem that this caused a war at all. Not a perfect analogy, but you get what I'm saying. And it's worth asking, wherever there is a totally non-religious conflict, do you think that such a conflict would be calmed or exacerbated if we were to introduce religious conviction? Perhaps only the correct religion would make things better. That's fine, you can hold that position, but then even a believer can accept that many religions do often cause conflicts, or at least make them worse.
A lot of evil has been done in the name of religion. This is true, but the most murderous people in human history have been atheists. This doesn't mean religion is true, it just means you can't use that as an argument against it.
I just want to point out that whilst religious violence is motivated by religious beliefs, atheist violence is rarely motivated by atheism. It's at best permitted by someone's atheism, but then religious violence is also permitted by the person's religious beliefs as well as being encouraged by them. But okay, on the Hitler thing. Look, I don't know what his religious views really were. Some say he was a Catholic, the religion he was baptized into and confirmed in. He did also write in Mein Kampf.
Some say he's an atheist as well. It's all over the place. Nobody wants to claim him for obvious reasons.
That, quote, "In standing guard against the Jew, I am doing the handiwork of the Lord." Not a particularly atheist statement. But then Hitler was probably quite good at, well, lying. And perhaps the belief of some, even to this day, that he was a convicted theist is just a testament to the strength of his propagandic efforts. But if he was lying, and didn't actually believe in God, then it's worth asking why he would think that lying about being religious would make his fascist campaign more successful. Whatever his own views personally were, he had every Nazi soldier wear belt buckles inscribed with the words "Gott mit uns," God with us. Clearly, even if he was personally an atheist, Hitler recognized that belief in a creator God can give people the confidence to do all kinds of evil.
If you were born somewhere else, you wouldn't be a Christian. Okay, and if you were born somewhere else, you wouldn't be an atheist. Everyone's beliefs are shaped by their context.
Well, this just misses the point. Sure, all beliefs are shaped by their geography, but atheists don't claim that there's a God supervising the world who proactively wants everyone to believe in him. If such a God did exist, would we really expect him to reveal himself more strongly and reliably to, say, Americans than to Indonesians? It seems incredibly unlikely and unfair that your chances of being saved, of coming to know the true God, could be determined
If you're looking for fairness, you're an idiot.
by where you happen to be born. If atheism is true, however, it's no surprise that where you're born shapes your religious beliefs, because that's what we think religious beliefs are, products of local mythology or political dominance. So yeah, if I was born in Indonesia, I'd probably be a Muslim, but whilst that's exactly what we'd expect if there is no universal God supervising...
Yeah, but there are Christians in Islamic countries, and there are Hindus in Muslim countries, and there are Buddhists in Taoist areas. So this doesn't exactly work either. it's not so much as an objection as it is an observation. And it's like someone's gesturing, someone being a little silly and a little loose, and then someone being super serious back and not getting the joke. So this critique is not exactly working. But we're only 3 minutes in and a 46-minute video, so it might pick up. I might jump ahead a little bit just to see what's going on.
Revising everything, and it's all just a product of local mythology. It's nothing like what we'd expect if there were a real universal God. By the way, I call this the genetic fallacy.
How do you know which religion is true? Well, everyone, religious or not, has faith in a certain worldview. It's just that some worldviews are called religions and some are secular. But everyone has to ask the question of which worldview best explains the world.
Nothing to add here.
I really don't like the worldview argument. I think it's kind of silly.
Yes, every worldview should be justified.
There's no scientific proof that God exists. Well, by definition, science can only prove things inside the natural world, and by definition, God is something outside the natural world.
That's correct, but that's going to leave you open to a critique.
So science can neither prove nor disprove God.
That's fine if you want to say that science has nothing to say about God, but you've just undercut a great deal of natural theology. You're disagreeing with everybody who tries to prove God's existence with the fine-tuning argument or the Big Bang.
Again, I don't think naturalistic arguments should get you to God, nor should reasoning. I've studied Zen and I've studied Buddhism. I've never studied Zen Buddhism. And my studying of Zen was deeper than my study of Buddhism. My study of Buddhism was one semester in college. Zen is something that I have experimented with, I guess, from 15 all the way until like 3 days ago.
In the Kalam cosmological argument, irreducible complexity, arguments about the genetic code, indeed, even the historical argument for the resurrection of Jesus. These just automatically...
I disagree with him that the historical argument for the resurrection of Jesus is outside of the realm of provable things. That's a thing in time, a moment in time. Jesus' incarnation puts him into this reality as a physical form, as a physical being. But outside of the Jesus of it all, it's when you're talking about God the Father, whether you want to define him as incorporeal and omnipotent, or you want to define him as the creator God of the Old Testament, once you get into metaphysics and allegory, you're really not going to get to physical proofs for God. Oh, that's cool.
Cannot work in establishing God's existence, since material investigations can't bear on the supernatural. Well, this is...
And again, that's absolutely true. What? I'm working. You're very talkative today. You were sitting on my lap. You could have just stayed here.
Fortuitous. Literally, as I was recording this video, Redeemed Zuma released a new video called All Arguments for God, explained in 10 minutes. Now, given that he's just said that science can never bear on the supernatural and can't prove or disprove God's existence, just take a listen to this.
Things in nature, like the human cell or the ecosystem of the world, are very complex and they work like a machine. Now, Darwinian evolution can explain why that is, but there's also things Darwinian evolution can't explain, like the 4 constants of the universe. There are physical constants like the gravitational constant and the electron charge, the strong nuclear force and the weak nuclear force that are perfectly fine-tuned, such that if they were even the slightest bit different, the entire universe would immediately...
I don't like the fine-tuning argument. I've said that many times before. I realize the fine-tuning argument and the divine watchmaker are pretty close together, but if I had to choose between the two, I'd go with the divine watchmaker. But in all honesty, I don't like those kind of arguments for God. God exists as an absolute, as a necessity. Fine. God is outside of time. We want to talk about abstracts and lesser divinities as being aspects of. That's also fine. Divinities with an S. I can talk about that. But when we start talking about theological arguments, I've never been impressed by them. I I've never thought of theological arguments of God of the gaps arguments. I know that many atheists that I've encountered and talked to and interacted with online and in person do find them to be God of the gaps arguments. But I think theological arguments, they don't just tend to the God of the gap stuff. It also, it doesn't connect to, it's trying to connect two things that are not connected. So when a religious person is presenting a theological argument, they're not presenting it as a God of the gaps argument. They think they're making the connection. If you can kind of get what I'm saying, Lester. In their mind, it's not a God of the gaps argument. There simply is no evidence for them to appeal to. But they think that lack of evidence is the evidence. The best argument for God, miracles, interaction, personal experience with God. I think those are the two strongest. I think things were created, and whatever did that creation is what I'm calling God. And beyond that entity, that event, that being that's outside of time, whether or not it has a will or a consciousness, that's going to be seen in the way that life comes about and things come about, which for me, there's enough in my life that I would say, yes, God is real. But I come from a life that is very full of death and suffering. And so my experience is more practical and more experiential. Most people's experience with God and with death and with the divine and with spirituality is more theoretical. I don't have that, and I've never experienced that. And when I tried to delve into that, I disproved all of that very quickly. This not as in like I was a scientist and I was out there disproving things. I was like 12. But I mean, just simply going about the process of trying to make magic really happen and trying to find a real ghost, all that stuff ended up being bullshit. So for me, God and religion is more experiential and not practical like practical. Practical is in practice. So religion is practice for me. It's action. It's the Jewish definition of religion. Oh no, I've been to China before. I've been to China before, but I'm going to be there for a longer time, and then if I move there, it's going to be even a bigger thing.
Immediately collapse in on itself.
Sounds pretty, I don't know, scientific, doesn't it? So it seems like when an atheist is arguing that science disproves God, no, science...
My wife thinks that I can continue doing YouTube from China, but I don't know. I don't I don't know if that's true, and I don't know if that's actually doable.
Science and religion are totally separate.
I mean, it's doable for some people, but I'm saying I don't know if it's going to be doable for me. So we'll see.
But non-overlapping magisteria. But when it comes to proving God's existence, hey, look at these finely tuned constants. Isn't that amazing?
There's no evidence of anything supernatural. Well, that's just not accurate. There are medically documented cases of people with demonic possession speaking in languages they don't know, for example, and people with near-death experiences getting information they never had access to.
Okay, medically documented cases of people with demonic possession sounds awesome. I would love to take a look at that, medical documentation. I get the feeling you're not going to provide any, are you? Fear not, we do have one source that was flashed on screen, a book by Richard Gallagher called Demonic Foes. So, okay, I
tried to explain to my wife about that I'm in America. I can be a dissident. I can take a corner of the internet and argue that God is true and Catholicism is true while arguing against apologists and preachers and pastors and famous people and get in their chats and make problems for people because they're saying logically inconsistent things. I can't do that in China, and I've tried to explain that to my wife multiple times. I've been tempted to get back into journalism, and I've been wanting to interview dissidents who are unhappy with Trump being back into office and unhappy with the religious political shift here in the U.S. You can't do that in China. I'd go to jail, and I don't want to go to jail, and I don't want to be kicked out of the country either. Yeah.
I bought the book. I only skimmed through a couple of chapters, but I did also watch a few of Dr. Gallagher's interviews. In the book, he talks about some of his experiences with people he believes were demonically possessed, including a woman he calls Julia. Evidence for demonic possession consists principally in people like Julia having special powers. One night, Dr. Gallagher heard his normally peaceful cats screeching and fighting with each other, and the next day he meets a woman he calls Julia, who says, "How do you like those cats last night?" Weird, for sure, but not quite yet the medical documentation that we're seeking. So then, what other special powers did Julia have? Well, Dr. Gallagher writes in the Washington Post of how she knew things that she couldn't have known naturally, including exactly how his mother had died years ago. But also, get this, she could tell some people their secret weaknesses, such as undue pride. Okay, but how about this? Julia, during various exorcisms, was suddenly able to speak fluent Latin out of nowhere. We're not told what she said, of course, but it happened. And if you can believe it, in one ceremony, she actually levitated out of her chair, literally floating in the air for half an hour. Atheists cannot explain that one. But we don't have to take Dr. Gallagher's word for this. Oh no. Actually, we can't, because he didn't see this himself. But we can just accept that the people who did see her levitate and told him about it were super trustworthy. We'll just have to take his word about somebody else's word. That's not to say that I can prove she wasn't possessed, or that Dr. Gallagher's priests were mistaken or lying, but this book, which is the only citation Redeemed Zuma provided, hardly fulfills my evidential expectations. But here's the thing, even if you could provide some kind of actual medical evidence for demonic possession, didn't you literally just say that's religious? The other leaves a bit more room for ambiguity. In today's complex information environment, Ground News stands out as an invaluable tool to help traverse the intricacies.
Okay,
of
they're
news
getting to a
reporting.
commercial,
It
so we're
ensures
going
that
to jump
all
on.
equipped for more insightful, informed conversations about pivotal contemporary issues. To explore this resource, visit ground.news/AlexOC and get access for under a...
Okay, so we're going to end with this one. I don't know how far we're going to get.
What to fill it with.
There's Cliff and Stuart Connectly. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Alex.
How did I do? Did I get it right?
Awesome. Nailed it.
Yeah,
First
okay.
time.
Okay, good. We're going to dive right into the deep end here. What is, if you had to summarize, the ultimate two-sentence blurb summary of what Christianity is all about? What's its main message?
God loves you. God forgives you. God wants you to change your ways and follow him. That's it.
That God created us to love him with our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbors ourselves. At times we've done it, at times we haven't. When we don't...
He bovulates. I'm not speaking good English today. I am not speaking English very well.
That's called sin, and it leads to a consequence, separation from God, death, and hell. But God loves us so much that he sent his only son, Jesus, to bleed and die on a cross to forgive us, to offer us a free gift, grace, forgiveness, and eternal life. And now...
Yeah, I'm not planning. My wife is planning on me doing the English teaching thing, but since there's a possibility of a university, since the university has an offer, and all I have to do is move my degree up by one, I'm thinking about doing that. That's like 18 hours. I can do 18 hours of schooling. That's not a problem. It's just a matter of me finding the time to do it. Since I can't do it during the day because I work a job and I take care of my dad, it needs to be an online course. It just has to be. Or an online degree.
Now, as we put our faith in him, he gives us that...
But finding an online degree that's accredited and recognized internationally, that's been the problem.
That gift, and we begin a life with him now and for eternity.
And that gift has a lot to do with forgiveness for the sorry state that we find ourselves in. Now, what I really want to begin by digging...
But there are forms of Christianity that don't recognize original sin, so I kind of don't agree with this guy's take on it.
into is, firstly, why we're in such a sorry state, whether it's I feel like the meaning crisis and the anxiety and the sort of the strange emptiness and shallowness of modern life is often just trivially attributed to the decline of religion. Whereas I wonder if we can really be as confident about that.
Well, according to the latest Harvard studies, we can be.
Now talking.
And now we're talking.
You know, and me going over there and taking the interview and doing all of that doesn't even mean I'm going to get the job. Let's just be very clear on that. So I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch.
Was right. And so one was titled If Spirituality Could Be Put into a Pill, It Would Save Endless Amounts of Lives. So Harvard has done 3 different studies over the last few decades on religion and mental physical health, and so longevity. And so the latest one was those who go to church, doesn't work with social clubs or anything of the like, church weekly, the women have a 60% higher chance of not remaining hooked on drugs. Emotional well-being skyrockets. Longevity skyrockets, and those who bring their kids to church on a regular basis, those kids.
Yeah, but Jordan Peterson has also talked about this study, and it does work with clubs. It does work with hobbies. It does work with simply having something to do in your life that's greater than yourself.
In their 20s have a much, much higher percentage of well-being, happiness, and flourishing. And the studies are longer than that. Like obviously altruism skyrockets for those who go to church and that sort of thing. So this is a very secular, slightly academic study that has shown this numerous times. So I think the meaning crisis, yes, it has a lot to do with church. I think you probably know Andrew Delbanco, who wrote The American Dream. He was a secularist, and he charted the history of the U.S. and showed how it wasn't too long ago when the nation really elevated God and church. And then it kind of shifted to patriotism and focusing on country and fighting for your country. So still something outside of yourself. But now secularism has poisoned our nation because it brings a high level of individualism and a focus on the self.
Well, American individualism has always been a heresy and has always been a thing here in America. And that also comes out of Protestantism. So hold your horses, boy.
We haven't got there yet about Christianity or Christ, but something about the transcendent,
Song.
something about religious communities coming together, something like that. Or is it something about Christianity? That gives people this well-being.
Yeah, that study was not done on mosques and other faiths. So I don't know exactly, but I do believe based out of...
Yes, going to a mosque, even being part of a coven or a Wiccan coven, will also get you the same benefits. Sorry, buddy. I believe in religion. I believe in God. I believe in Christianity. I believe that God is the one true God. I believe that Jesus is God. I believe in the Trinity. Saying all of that, the studies don't show that Christianity gives a unique bonus. It shows that all religion gives these benefits.
Dartmouth is near us, and Dartmouth did a bunch of studies showing.
And again, that's assuming that we're referencing the same study, which I'm assuming you're referencing the same study that Jordan Peterson uses often. So if you're using that study, which I'm familiar with, then yeah, it's not just Christianity that gives these benefits.
Those who are able to look upward first and have God, and then, so like it's basically like love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Those who are able to get outside of themselves like that, rather than fall in on themselves, which is the massive majority of Americans right now, they have that type of mental health. So I believe, basically it's conjecture. My theory would be identity. I think those...
They also want to...
Well, at least he admits it's conjecture.
But they find themselves unable to do so because they know that it is all meaningless, that it is all just molecules in motion, that suffering has no redemption or justification. And so then you say, well, hold on, if you're a believer in Christ, that problem goes away. And I go, yeah, that sounds pretty good. It almost sounds too good to be true. You see what I'm saying? Like it's so convenient. It's so brilliant at overcoming the most fundamental, deepest existential problems of humanity that it sort of got... And
I guess my only question... Was your point that Job wasn't allowed to doubt? God didn't want to doubt? Or what was exactly your point?
He's allowed to doubt.
Yeah.
But of course, who knows what Job is really about. There's a kind of irony in Job. My old tutor, Dr. Catherine Southwood, actually thinks that Job should be read as a comedy. It's so many different interpretations. There's an irony underlying the book of Job, which is that Job never knows and never finds out why he's suffering. There's a personal dashboard giving me a detailed look.
Thinking through, is Jesus who he claims to be? And he was willing to die. So he was not some...
There's a personal dashboard giving me a detailed look at the holiday season. I touches, here I am, Thomas, come touch me. At which point, Thomas says, my Lord and my God.
Yeah.
Well, we're never actually told that he touches the wounds. And so I'm interested in your interpretation of the story, because there's a reading of this text, which is that like Thomas is saying, like, I need evidence, show me the evidence. This is as soon as Jesus is there in front of him and says, well, if that's what you really want, go ahead. It's almost like he immediately realizes that it's a ridiculous request, or it wasn't needed anyway. It's almost a message of like the realization that it's not about the empirical evidence. Because otherwise I struggle to really get to grips with what the message of doubting Thomas could be. Because you're right to sort of, it's an astute.
So the way that Catholics teach it at church, like in the homily, you need evidence. You need factual evidence. So that is what it is. It was empirical evidence for Thomas, and that Thomas's faith was weak because it needed that. Those who have belief without knowing, those are the ones with true faith. They're lucky because they get to believe whether they have true faith or not, because they get to witness the actual event. So their faith is, in a way, more secure, but it's also not as strong. While someone else's faith 100 years from now, 1,000 years from then, their faith is less secure, but their faith is stronger.
Comparison to this Job thing. Here's somebody's.
I will say this, and I don't want to talk too much about it because my wife has asked me not to give too many details. But my wife's village, this is not where we live now, but my wife's village is right next to the Shaolin Temple. So there is a strong chance we will be visiting her village, and when we go there, we will also go visit the Shaolin Temple. So it depends on the weather, though, because if the weather is freezing, we probably won't do it.
Saying like, hey, like, I want an answer here. And God like gives him something, at which point he's sort of brought to his knees. Like, what do you think is the message there? He says, you have believed because you've seen me. And bear in mind, seen, not touched. Blessed are those who believe without seeing. How are we supposed to read that as anything other than a message that, like, you should believe without evidence?
Oh, I don't think I could ever conclude that is, you should believe without evidence. Thomas had asked and said, unless I can see, I'm not going to believe. And Jesus didn't reprimand him and say, you idiot, you dumb nitwit. No, Jesus stands there and says, right here, Thomas, my man, take your hands and put them in the nail prints in my hands. Take your hand and thrust it in a spear wound in my side. And you're right, the text is silent about whether he actually physically put his hands in the nail prints in Christ's hands. But obviously, Thomas hits the ground and says,
I would say he did it. I would say he definitely did it.
is my Lord and my God, and he worships him, and Jesus accepts that worship as an appropriate response to him. So I think it's
We're going to go 15 more minutes, then we'll do the outro.
real clear that Jesus honored that man.
Honey.
And I think part of the reason he honored that man is because when Jesus said to his disciples, let's go to Bethany,
No, you're getting
Thomas says, yeah, let's go with him
scratch happy.
to
No.
die. So Thomas was not playing this silly, silly game of, let's play the doubting game. No, Thomas was incredibly devoted to Christ, incredibly devoted to thinking through, is Jesus who he claims to be? And he was willing to die. So he was not some ridiculously naive.
But that's assuming that the non-biblical, extra-biblical martyr stories are true.
Game player. But then when he hits a wall of
Which you as a Protestant don't believe that they're infallible stories, so that makes it hard. I don't think Cliff's grumpy. I just think he makes a lot of bad faith arguments. But he's very clever and very good at it. I mean, if I was that good of a rhetorician, I probably wouldn't have to be doing a YouTube channel to get my points across.
doubt, Christ honors him and says, okay, here I am. And when Christ says, yeah, you believe because you've seen, but blessed are those who will believe even though they've not seen, I don't think Christ is saying evidence is unimportant. I think clearly he has honored Thomas's request for evidence and said, but not everyone's going to be able to see my wounds. And the demons believe that and shudder. So obviously I think faith is more than just an intellectual thing where I say, okay, the evidence is God exists, so I think God exists. No, I think that it has to go much further than that, to the point of Job saying, I know his character is good. Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. Where the author of Hebrews writes it in Hebrews 11:6, without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. In other words, God is good. He wants to reward us.
Yeah, no, I've seen his stuff that shows up on my feed on both Twitter and Twitter on what's it called? Shit. I don't know. Whichever the one where it does the quick things. And I've seen him on here. I've seen him on YouTube. But it's always with him younger. It's like him 10 years ago or 20 years ago. He's much, much younger than he is here.
us. He wants to shower us with
But the video looks really good. It makes the students look like it's current time.
blessings, with joy, with delight. In fact, God is the most joyful being in the universe. That's
Unless he suddenly aged really bad in the last 2 years.
part of what drives me to get to know him better. So faith is not just an intellectual gymnastic. Faith is a
Sweetheart,
personal commitment
way too
and
hot
a
and
trust
you're
in Christ,
scratching me.
a
Go.
response to his love, to
Get
his
away. Go.
warming our hearts
Go.
with his love.
I must say that's not
fine. Go.
the picture I get of God from the Old Testament. I want to talk about gospel reliability, but perhaps we should do this in order.
Good.
Even Christians today will speak as if the God of the Old Testament is like a different character. There's the God of the Old Testament, and there's Jesus.
What was that interaction like, Pastor? Pastor saying he met Cliff in the 90s.
And they're kind of the same, but the God of the Old Testament is Yahweh, and Jesus is Yahweh, but like they talk about them differently. And I suppose the first question is, can you understand why, at least, people are doing that? If you read the Old Testament and you see a much more military, jealous, apparently vindictive, one who regrets things, one...
So let me answer this before Cliff. So the understanding of God had changed. The understanding of God at one point was a more anthropomorphic God. And as time moved on, people's understanding of God changed to a more omniscient God. The understanding changed. God didn't change. The understanding changed.
one who seems to
So
physically...
the authors who are writing about him changed the way that they describe him.
sort of walk amongst sort of the Garden of Eden, but is also sort of really far away, but is also kind of localized in a temple. And then you have this Jesus figure, the meek and mild, the endlessly loving, the impossible to picture as anything other than just like love and softness and beautiful. Can you understand why people see these as as incompatible?
Sure. But I hope God is jealous. I hope you're jealous.
Sure.
If you have children and they're starting to entertain the friendship of a drug dealer, I hope that you're going to be jealous for your child's attention and loyalty. And when you see a drug dealer begin to weasel his way into their lives and suck them into drug addiction, I hope that you will have a
He's going to go to Satan. He's going to go to the snake in the garden. He's going to go to Satan. Is that really what he's doing?
less jealousy where you will seek to win your child back. I hope you'll be angry at times with a righteous indignation. I mean, if I beat you up and steal your wallet, the police come in because these guys call the police. Stuart calls the police. And the police say, Cliff, you beat up Alex. You stole his wallet. Now let's go to Starbucks. Well, that's ridiculous. Moral outrage is appropriate. Why? Because injustice is horrendous. Well, the same people who object to that will say, oh, well, God's just loving and forgiving. Oh, no, no, no. God in both the Old Testament and the New Testament is angry about evil. Good gracious. Jesus took a whip of cords and drove the religious hypocrites out of the temple. And the bloodiest book in the Bible is not in the Old Testament, it's in the New Testament. The last book of the New Testament, book of Revelation, the blood flows like no other place in the Bible. So the Bible is very consistent. God has a righteous jealousy, a righteous anger, but he's a God of mercy and grace.
I'm pretty sure Dan would not agree with this, not estimation, but this understanding of the text.
And yes, he will judge, and Jesus said, I'm going to be the one to judge you.
Let's talk about that righteous anger, because I think righteous is the operative word there. If you were to...
Righteous indignation.
If you were to beat me up, you would start attacking me, and
Yes.
these fine people called the police, and the police showed up
Yep.
and said, what are you doing? But then it actually transpired that I was your slave, and the book of Exodus clearly states that if you beat up your slave, as long as they get up after a few days, you're not to be punished. And they say, oh, well, sorry to disturb you, gentlemen, and they go to Starbucks. Right? You see what I'm saying? The righteous part is important here, right? The commands that God is giving, the things that he's angry about, the things that he demands of the nation of Israel, seem to run contrary to a lot of our moral intuitions. Now, perhaps we can start by talking about the slavery thing. Right?
Yes.
I understand that the word slavery is a promiscuous term that can mean lots of different things. When you say slavery, people immediately think of antebellum American South slavery, right? The kind of slavery that appears in the Hebrew Bible is going to be very different. And it's going to vary depending on what kind of slaves you're talking about. There will be indentured servants. There will be, and also it's a different kind of society, right? Where people literally cannot survive except insofar as them being a servant of a house. And there are rules about what you can do and what you can't do. But it does seem at the very least that the Hebrew Bible, we can perhaps begin with this as a premise, does not condemn, in principle, the ownership of other human beings as private property. Would you disagree with that?
Yes.
So where the Hebrew Bible says things like, if he gets up after...
I don't disagree with Alex's statement so far. Yeah, I know. And it's already at the end of the show, too. If more people come in, if our audience grows by, let's say if we get 5 more viewers before we get to the 30-minute mark, I'll go ahead and keep going. But if it's just us, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop it at 1 hour and 30 minutes.
For a day or two, you're not to be, the slave owner is not to be punished because the slave is his property.
Mm-hmm.
And where he says, your male and female slaves may come from the nations around you. From them you...
The people who wrote the Bible didn't see anything wrong with slavery. They saw something wrong with them, with Israelites being slaves. They didn't see anything wrong with them owning other people as slaves. It's just that easy. The people who wrote the Bible didn't see anything wrong with Israelites or whoever taking slaves. They're writing about a time that never happened, and they're writing about an event that didn't happen. They're writing about a time that never existed, and they're writing about events that didn't happen. They were looking around at the world as they understood it based on their interactions and stories of the past that they heard from other cultures and from what they could physically see from the ruins that they saw. And based on their best understanding, they gave a narrative of what they thought happened. And in that narrative, they're also projecting into the future how they would roll and how they would be different and how they would be more just and more righteous than the people who had taken advantage of them. That's what it was. Yeah, dude, Blaster, go get some sleep, drink some water, take your dog out for a walk. What time is it where you're at? Do you have lights and stuff so you can take your dog out safely?
You may buy and sell slaves. You may also purchase some of the temporary residents living among you and members of their clan. But you must not rule over your fellow Israelites ruthlessly. Clearly here, we're dealing with the ownership of other human beings as private property. Clearly God is legislating in such a way, sometimes seeming as not to condemn it there and then, and sometimes saying you may do this. And I wonder if...
For everyone who's watching this later, I know I got a really good bump of viewers around 10 o'clock, 10:30. If you'd like me to keep on with this video, please in the either in the live chat, we won't have a live chat, in the comments, let me know you want me to keep doing this, and then tomorrow night we can keep up with this video.
If he's not at least implicitly...
I'll keep on with this video.
What is he doing in those verses?
He's giving instruction, not approval. He's giving regulation, not affirmation of it.
It didn't happen. There's no physical evidence or proof that this happened. In fact, there's what little evidence there is to say it didn't happen. Now, maybe one day we'll have evidence that all of this is exactly how it's reported in the Bible. But currently, we do not have that evidence. So, what are you talking about, Cliff?
And the key to this is what Jesus says in Matthew chapter 19, when he's asked, what about divorce?
Right.
And Jesus points out, yeah, divorce is wrong. Well, then why did Moses say, give your wife a certificate of divorce and send her on her way? And Jesus says something fascinating. He says, Moses permitted this because your hearts were hard. Gets right back to the book of Job. We live in an unfair, cursed, messed up world. And unfortunately, if there's been adultery, divorce is permissible before God. But that is not the way it was from the beginning. From Genesis 2:24, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother, be united to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So remember, those laws in the Old Testament are instructions, not approval, regulations, not endorsement.
I have heard this response.
They've been building these bike islands, I can describe it as. It's for biking, it's for hiking, and they've been putting it behind shopping centers and stuff like that. And they've been doing it around the old canal system. So where I live, there used to be all farmland. And about 10 years ago, they were going to tear it down and bury it over. And me and a few other people were protesting against it. It's one of the only times I was an activist in that sense, where I was actually protesting, not just rioting or giving an opinion. And then the bulldozers came and we thought, okay, well, we're done. And instead, they turned it into bike trails and hiking trails and even in some areas that they added water, so they made it like little man-made lakes instead of just the old canal system, and just the old reservoir system. And so I've heard from a group called Critical Mass, which does bike riding, that the plan is to connect all of these together to where you can go bar hopping or you can go shopping on your bike and take these back trails. And there's one area, I think it's called Precinct 6 or Precinct 7, I don't really know. And the way that they did it is that they put where the canal would have the stopping point, they made a bridge, and then they made a section go under the bridge. So you have this cool underground area where you can bike and skateboard and hike, and it's open 24 hours, and it has lights and cameras all over the place. It's really cool. Oh, okay, that's awesome. Yeah, we don't have that yet. So Blaster is saying there's like 50 miles of bike trails where he's at. Yeah, we don't have that yet. We're just starting to do it, and we only started a few years ago. I used 3 of the trails, and I used one that's not a trail, but it really should be. But I bought originally I bought a hardtail bike, a Specialized, and I couldn't get up some of these the canals because they didn't have the structure, the superstructure that they have now. And so some of the hill, I call it a hill, but the elevation, the slopes, I couldn't get up. So I ended up having to switch to a Giant and getting a dual suspension system mountain bike. International Olympians train here. Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Before, right? The idea is that there are 2 ways to look at this. One is to say, well, actually, God was perfectly okay with it, but it just wasn't as bad as you think. And one way is to say, actually, it is pretty bad, but God's not okay with it, right? For example, in the book of Exodus, where the law of God says, if you have a Hebrew slave, he's to go free after 7 years. If he has a wife, when he comes to you, then the wife goes free too. But if, while he's your slave, he takes a wife and has children, the wife and children stay with you. They don't get to go with him. If, however, it says the man decides that he loves his wife and he loves his children and he loves his master, as if those 3 have to come together. Maybe he just loves his wife and kids. Well, he can stay with them, but in doing so, he's taken somewhere. He has his ear pierced like cattle, and then he remains a slave for life in order that he can be with his wife and children. Now, I understand the idea that maybe God, for some reason, couldn't abolish slavery. Maybe the society just couldn't do without it. Whatever the reason may be, it seems to me that it wouldn't have been too much to ask for God to say, if he has a wife and children, then when he goes free, his wife and kids should go with him. Because I'm a God who believes in the family. I believe in marriage. I believe in sort of the proper upraising of children. And so if you're going to let that man go, it's a real priority that his wife and kids go with him. But no, instead, for some reason...
You really shouldn't be putting modern ethos, popular ethos, and projecting it onto God. That's the first thing I would say. There was like this Italian girl that would just do laps around the baseball field. I could see her 6-pack from 250 yards away. Interesting addition, Blaster. Yeah, the place where I live, we're severely obese. Almost everybody. We have one of the worst obese weight rates in all of the United States. So I think a lot of this, what they're doing is they're trying, like they're even putting like free weight equipment that's like not weight equipment out. So I think this is also like kind of like a health initiative for the area that I live in.
That's not allowed. So in other words, if it were just the case that we had a list of commands where God said,
I want to be clear, we're one of the worst. We're not the worst for obesity, but we're one of the worst.
If you're going to beat your slave, then this is going to happen. Then fine. Maybe he's trying to sort of ready us for an abolitionist world. But there are a lot of cases where he seems not to do that.
So once again, must read in context. All right? So you've got Genesis 1, God creates us in his image, male and female.
Okay, so we're not going to worry about that. Let's go to the live scene. All right. Forgive yourself, forgive your enemy, forgive your neighbor. Love yourself, love your enemy, love your neighbor, and love God above all. BS, you got here way too late. I'm already ending the show, and now you have requests. I'll tell you what. I was gonna shave tonight. What I'll do. I don't want to get rid of the goatee, but what I'll do is I'll shave this and I'll leave the mustache, and you can tell me what you think about it tomorrow. How's that sound, BS? Sound cool? All right. BS Lewis, Blaster, anyone else who's watching today, incognito mode or live, and anyone who's watching tomorrow, I really appreciate you watching. Thomas, nice to see you. Thank you for coming by. We will do this again tomorrow. And don't forget, go watch my alternate channel, Thought 4. That's going to have comic books. Go watch my Want to Work Out, my workout channel that has my life updates and my vlog updates. Thank you, VS. I greatly appreciate you, more than you know. I am going to probably do an open room sometime in the near future. I know my open rooms never perform well, but I want a chance for people to come in and talk and us hang out, maybe have a few beers together or some drinks. Because once I go to China, I don't know what the future is gonna be when I get back. So, anyway, I love you all. Like I said, I want to talk to one of the big boys before I go to China about the Bible as literature. Nobody seems to get about what I'm talking about when I talk about the Bible as literature. I know it's a thing. I know it's a field. No, I do not need a professor who does Bible and literature to come on. Obviously, we already agree with each other. I want to talk to someone who I disagree with. Also, I am looking for people to interview who are dissidents, who do not like the Trump administration, who do not like republicanism, who are unhappy about religion, who are anti-theists, who are, even if they're anarchists, that's fine. I'm looking for dissidents to interview live. I'm talking about Wiccans. I'm talking about Satanists, Luciferians, people who are honestly upset about what's happening, anti-theists, people who have a problem with where America, with the direction America is going. I want to interview them. I want to talk to you. I want to hear what you think. There's going to be some slight pushback. Don't worry about that. I'm not here to humiliate you. I'm here to hear you out. So let's do that. I want to do that as well before I leave. Go to their channel and tell them I'm interested. The way that YouTube works right now, I can't really put a link to my channel in someone else's channel. So progressive Christians is fine, but they have to be pro-trans, pro-LGBT, and anti-Trump. I don't want to talk to anyone who holds my beliefs. I want to talk to people who disagree with me, BS. I want to talk to people who disagree with me. Anyway, have a good night, everybody. Here comes the music. If people want to continue on with this video tomorrow, we will. All right. Talk to y'all later. Yes, I saw your message, Blaster. All right. Okay. Okay, I'll head over next time. I mean, I'll have to look at his channel, but yeah, I'll go check it out. Okay. I'll check it out, and the next time they're on, if I'm not working at that time, I'll hop in the chat and I'll see what happens. All right, let's do the music before we never leave, and then I didn't work out tonight. I still got to work out.
Where did you go when I was down and I needed you most? Yeah. Where did you go when I was alone, just looking for hope? Yeah. I worked on myself, learned a few lessons. Without you, I spread my wings to the heavens. But where did you go when I was down and I needed you most? Yeah. It was long days and long nights, battling with demons, so tired from the fights, yeah. I was struggling to make ends meet, thought I had you on my team, now the feeling's bittersweet, cause I look back now, and it looks different. I was trying to win for us, but you had a different mission. Just listen, I fought hard every day, You gave away someone who would follow you into the grave. Where did you go when I was down and I needed you most, yeah? Where did you go when I was alone, just looking for hope, yeah? I worked on myself, learned a few lessons. Without you, I spread my wings to the heavens. But where did you go when I was down and I needed you most, yeah? Life's looking good now, cut out the negative. It stays away if you make sure not to let it in. A different purpose, I'm a different person. I've been working on myself, built a new version. The best revenge is having success, so what's next? Goddamn, I've been feeling real blessed to be alive, to be in this life. I got a new chance to move on and thrive. So I'll stay strong, I'll live life. I'll be wrong, I'll be right. I'll work hard, see new sights. I'll look deep, yeah.